Hello and welcome to a new show on the network. My name is Garrett Hayes and you are watching Start to Rewind, a show where we have more video games than we do cameras. So in this show, I really want to talk about my nostalgic memories with video games and all the different kinds of video games that I grew up with and have guests come on too. And so I figured that a way that I wanted to start with the show was discussing probably the most influential system of my childhood, and that is the Nintendo 64. The Nintendo 64 was released in 1996 in North America as Nintendo's first 64-bit gaming console, succeeding the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. It introduced groundbreaking 3D graphics with iconic titles like Super Mario 64 and The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, setting new standards for the gaming industry. Despite its innovation, the N64 faced challenges, including the decision to use cartridges instead of CDs, which limited its third-party support. The console sold over 30 million units worldwide and was praised for its multiplayer capabilities, particularly with games like GoldenEye 007 and Mario Kart 64. While it didn't dominate the market like its competitors, the N64 remains a beloved piece of gaming history, remembered for its technological advancements and classic titles. So yeah, the Nintendo 64 has a lot of history with it, revolutionized the gaming industry in its entirety, and it truly just means a lot to me. I mean, there's not really a lot that I can say besides, repeating myself with it. But I have a guest with me today, and I want to introduce you to a longtime friend and quite possibly best friend of mine, Nick. How you doing, Nick?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good.
They set me on the show.
Yeah, no problem. So I wanted you to come on because you absolutely love N64 like how I do.
Yeah.
And you still play it today. But we're going to go ahead and get into the first question with you with this.
Yeah.
So what would you say was your first encounter with the Nintendo 64?
My first encounter was when I was probably around, 5 or 6 years old, which is still kind of late, like well past the 64's lifetime. But we had one, and my first experience was playing The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, which, for those who don't know, is like the highest rated game of all time. If you go on Metacritic, it has the highest score of that. It's widely considered to be the greatest video game ever produced.
Yeah. And it's pretty easy to see why it's so highly rated. I mean, it was, a revolutionary game for its time. And as you know, it brought Zelda into the 3D plane. And so it was a game that I actually fell in love with in high school. And you know that, obviously. So you've been a fan of it much longer than I have. You actually, we have a picture of when we were much younger. I mean, it I think was end of middle school,
It was like,
beginning of high school.
Yeah, it was like just about 10 years ago.
Yeah, and so you were playing the Nintendo 64, and you were playing Zelda, and I had no idea what it really was. Like, I know my brother Sean played it when we were younger, and I remember I brought my controller over so that you could actually play it, because I think you didn't have a controller during the time. And so you were having a really great time playing it, and I was just, I'm pretty sure in a caption, I said, what did I say?
Nick finding his long-lost Ocarina of Time game or something.
Yeah, and yeah, so, yeah, it was a game that grew on me in high school, and I might have to have you come in for when I eventually cover that, because that will be an episode in the future, a little sneak peek, is we're going to be talking about Ocarina of Time, and so I might have you come in at some point to talk about it. So we'll see where we go with that. But that's down the line. I gotta make sure that our current viewers forget that I even said that. So future viewers, once that episode comes out eventually, you can refer back to this and say, oh God, Garrett already is outing his show and talking about it. But yeah, so that's a really great memory that you have with the system. And it's a really solid one. I can't exactly pinpoint when I started playing the N64. It was definitely when I was between 4 and 6 years old that I started playing it. And I played a lot of games on it, like Super Smash Bros., Donkey Kong 64, which is one of my favorite games. And I will defend it tooth and nail.
I'm pretty sure it is your favorite game.
It is one of my favorite games, and I'll defend it tooth and nail once again. and Super Mario 64 as well, and then some other niche games, like there was like a Toy Story game on it as well. That it's like a third-party game, but I also loved that too, and a lot of really fun games on it. But the earliest memory I can think of with the system was that I was sitting in my sister's room, what used to be her room, at my parents' house, and you know that smell of the wall in the summertime when the plaster, whatever material is in walls. I mean, you know, I'm not a builder. I don't know any of this, but
A good old lead paint.
yeah, the good old lead paint, but a horsehair plaster. I think it was horsehair plaster, but it has this smell to it in the summertime when it gets hot. The room's a little humid. It has the smell of like paint materials and construction materials. And I remember it was a pretty hot day. We had a fan going somewhere upstairs, and I was playing Mario 64, sitting on the floor with a little CRT television, playing on the original charcoal gray system that was my brother's system. And it's really as simple as that. So that's one of my oldest memories, and I think that, you know, as far back as I can remember, that was probably one of the earliest memories I have of the system, was playing Mario 64, you know, crisscross applesauce on the floor, playing it on the CRT television.
Yeah.
And it's the smell that, you know, when, like, if I take a second just to smell, it's like I can remember that exact smell. And then I remember that memory with it, too.
Yeah.
But, so yeah, that was, I would say that's probably my first encounter with it.
Yeah.
I'm sure at some point there was a different one, but from what I can remember, that was the first one. So, yeah. All right, so the next question I have for you, Nick, is what would you say is your fondest memory with the Nintendo 64?
My fondest memory is actually not myself playing the console. It was actually my dad beating Ganon in Ocarina of Time.
That's cool.
He would always come in like the living room and ask me and my brother, like, "Oh, do you guys want to see me fight Ganon again?" And we'd like watch him like duel Ganondorf, and then like at the end, like the castle collapses and he'd turn into Ganon, and we'd watch him just like kick his butt. It was, I don't know, like looking back on that, like it was always fun to like watch my dad like just get to the highest point of the game, and like he like 100%ed it. He had everything, like the big Goron sword, the mirror shield, and he was able to just like kick Ganon's butt. And it was super fun to watch that, and that's definitely like a good memory that I like, a very fond memory that I have of the 64.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, that final fight, I'm gonna need to throw in some footage after of that fight because it's the coolest thing.
Yeah, they butchered it in the 3DS remake.
Yeah, the lighting was a little iffy with that one, to say the least. But that is a really awesome finale for such an incredible game like that.
A big theme I gotta see is that I'm very much a Zelda fanatic. It's kind of the only game that I really play. I played other games. I played like Banjo, Kazooie, Banjo-Tooie. Played, you know, I played Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
No, right.
You didn't beat it though. Did you beat it?
No, I didn't.
No, you came close, but there's a lot to that game, which obviously down the line we'll discuss. But yeah, that was a big collectathon. But the final fight is really awesome though on Ocarina of Time. So I have to say my fondest memory with the Nintendo 64 would have to be I was playing Smash Brothers on the original system my brother had, of course, because that was the one I'll be at. And I was sitting in what is my brother's bedroom now, I think, still is. And it was like the blue room. And my brother Kyle had he had a Blue's Clues chair, like, you know, from the original Blue's Clues, the big red chair.
I had the thinking chair too.
The thinking chair. Oh my god, I remember that.
Dude, I had it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I didn't know you had that too.
We did, yeah. We had the original thinking chair, like the nice red one with the fancy cushions and everything.
It was like upholstered and everything.
Yep. And I remember playing Smash Brothers, and I was sitting in that chair, and the AC was going because, of course, it was the summertime. And this must have been when I was like 6 or 7. But it's a very a bit of a grainy memory. But I remember sitting on that comfy chair, the thinking chair, and the CRT was up on a little shelf, and I was playing Smash Brothers, and I was playing as like Mario trying to get Luigi or something in the game, and the AC was going, and it was another one of those moments where once again smell contributes to it, because as we all know, ACs have a smell to them that it's this unique smell that the room ended up smelling
That's
like.
the old rundown.
That's the old rundown
From the 90s that are doing you more
Uh-huh.
harm than good, but they always work better than the new ones.
Yeah, and so that I would say that's part of my fondest memory with it, is and doing that, playing Smash Brothers on the thinking chair.
Yeah.
But besides us playing it today, because those are my fondest memories now. Those are my fondest memories.
For those that don't know, I guess we haven't mentioned it, but Garrett and I were actually roommates for a year. So we did a lot of gaming, and it was a lot of fun, actually.
Yep. One of the things we actually played was the Ocarina of Time randomizer.
Yeah.
So there was like a multiplayer mod for it, and we literally just played the randomizer, and we got pretty good at it too. Like we literally knew every single hole.
We played it for like a week straight. Like you like do like one seed, like a seed is like a generated thing that like the seed is like the game. And we'd play like through like each game like once a day, like just back to back to back. It was so fun.
Yeah. So that was actually a ton of fun. We do need to do that again. So I've been going to bed early like a good person, but I gotta start staying awake again and doing some gaming and stuff. You know. For the sake of keeping time, we're going to go ahead and go into the next question, which isn't so much a question. It's more so a point that I really wanted to bring up. The Fantastic series from the Nintendo 64.
I will let you spearhead that one.
So
You know more about it than I.
the Fantastic series was an incredible thing. I quite possibly loved the trend in the 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, maybe even mid 2000s, of technology with translucent shells. I like colorful things. And so I loved when things were translucent. You can see the tech inside too, which was always kind of cool. But I more so loved the colors. I actually got this one. This is the Jungle Green Nintendo 64. It was bundled with Donkey Kong 64 on its launch, but now you can get it on eBay for, scalpers prices. But
It's kind of rare to see those on a home console. Like Nintendo was known for doing that on their handhelds and controllers, I guess, like Game Boy and DS, and I don't know if they did it for the DS actually, but like like just a Game Boy and a lot of their like controllers, like they would actually do that translucent kind of plastic, but like they haven't really done that since, really. Maybe the GameCube.
I think GameCube had like an orange one, I think.
Yeah, but like it was kind of rare to see. Like I think it's one of the only times they actually made one for a home console.
Yeah, and so the green, I used to see this in Nintendo Power magazines when I was a kid, and I know I always wanted this since I was a kid. And a few years ago, some friends and I went to PAX East, and this was at one of the booths, and I had to buy it. I mean, it was sitting literally on the shelf, staring at me with that logo, and I knew I needed to buy it. And it was a little pricey, just a little bit, but it came with the cables, and the cables are in the other room. But it came with the cables, the controller, the whole thing, besides the game, and I think even the expansion pack was included with it. But yeah, so the Fantastic series was incredible, and I mean, I even have, give me just a second, some N64 controllers here. So we have the classic red and the classic yellow. So these are solid, as you can see. So they're not translucent like this, so they're solid. But we're not done there. We're not done just yet. I'm gonna put those right there. We also have, give me just a second. Oh, I'm getting old. Not really. The Jungle Green N64, not the N64, the controller. The Jungle Green N64 controller. And I think this is the Ice Blue Nintendo 64 controller.
Ice Indigo. Man.
Ice Blue, Indigo. I didn't look this up before, but I think it's the Ice Blue. But so we had this one as well. And this one came with the system, obviously. But these ones are translucent, so they're very stimulating for my eyes. And I've always loved colorful things. So that's kind of the Fantastic series. It's more of a accessory thing, more than a performance thing, really. But yeah, Nintendo, you really should bring this back with the Switch too. You should bring back translucent, and companies in general should bring it back. Xbox has actually been releasing controllers that are like translucent shells. Like, have you seen, like, I think they have a blue one and a red one right now, and then I think like a charcoal black one.
I mean,
which is pretty cool.
And the keen-eyed among you may have noticed that all these controllers have 3 handles, and most of us don't have 3 hands, which is it's a weird design choice by Nintendo for it. I guess it's supposed to fit multiple play styles, but
Yeah.
most of the time you're gonna hold a controller with the middle handle in your right hand, left hand, sorry, and the one on the right on your right hand.
Yep.
A lot of games didn't even use the D-pad at all. Like,
No. It was usually like retro games. Like, I know on Pokemon Stadium you can play Game Boy Pokemon games.
Yeah.
And you can use the D-pad. So, you can hold it like this, right? Like, that's the obsolete way to hold it, but that's more for the retro setup. The real way is to hold it like that.
I mean, I would say the biggest fault of the system is the controller.
Yeah.
Because, at the time, I think the PlayStation was already out or was coming out soon, and by then they already had the DualShock controller with 2 analog sticks.
Yeah.
The 64 has the C buttons, the camera buttons.
Yeah, nice little yellow buttons.
Yeah.
There.
So, and I mean, the actual joystick for the N64, as many people know already, if you don't, it is a horrible design. It's plastic on plastic, and eventually, like, there's no way to prevent it. Every single joystick on these will go bad. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. They will lose all their tightness. Like, they won't spring back into the middle of the of that bowl.
Yeah. I should have actually brought in a control. I have a controller back at the house that literally the joystick always just looks like that.
Yeah.
It's always hanging down, and it is a huge fault of Nintendo.
Like,
but,
when you go on eBay and you look for controllers, one of the big selling points of controllers is having a tight stick. Because if it's a loose stick, you lose that control. Like, Nintendo 64 controllers are insanely precise. Like, it's ridiculous. It's hard to use third-party controllers with N64 games because of how they're programmed to use that analog stick. Because a lot of the time, it's too sensitive.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I was actually gonna. I almost forgot to talk. I was gonna talk about the weirdness of the controller, but yeah, it makes it an iconic controller. But to today's standard, a lot of people do look at it as a bit of a alien-esque controller.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
a good first attempt, though.
I mean, hey, they went from that to making like the best controller ever created, which is the GameCube controller. I'd say that's a good step.
Yeah.
So,
But yeah, so those are the controllers, obviously. So the last question I have for you, Nick, is where is your system now, and do you still play it?
so in my living room, we actually have like a kind of how do we call it? In my living room, we have like a media shelf. Like,
Yeah, it's like the TV stand
TV
with shelves in it that you can put stuff in.
And there's several consoles in that. I have the Super Nintendo, the Wii, and the N64. The N64 is the only one that actually gets use.
Yeah.
But I still do play it to this day. I actually recently 100% completed The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask.
You were saying that, yeah.
Which is
super impressive.
It's a fun game to play. Like I said, I will never say it enough.
Hold on, you on the hot seat. How many times did you look up stuff?
I mainly looked up how to get some of the heart pieces because
Okay. That's
I
understandable.
I think Twilight Princess has the most heart pieces, but at the time Majora's Mask did because there's only 4 dungeons. So, there's like 20-something heart pieces that you have to get. So there were a couple things I had to look up. And the Andrew Caffey quest.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
But, no, I mean, I still get regular use out of it. Obviously, you come over all the time, and we always play like GoldenEye or Diddy Kong Racing or something. So, we definitely get some use out of it. I still have it hooked up to a CRT. It's the only way you can really play it. If you try and, I don't like hooking it up to like a modern TV like this. Like, I'm sure you will at some point.
Yeah.
For the show, but
Yep.
Playing it on CRT, I feel like it's a more faithful way of playing the game. I'm not a big fan of emulating it because N64 emulators aren't there yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I still have my original N64 from when I was a kid. I don't have all my original games. I don't know where they went. Miyamoto snatched them from when I was a kid.
We'll have to go down at some point and see if we can find them.
Yeah, but yeah, I still have my original system. I've had to open it and clean it out once or twice, but
I have to do that with you at some point,
But,
because I haven't cleaned this one.
yeah, no, it's very easy. But no, yeah, it's still in my living room. I play it at least once a month.
Okay.
At the very least. And yeah, I still have most of the. I've been kind of recollecting some of the games I had from my childhood. You know, just mainly like Zelda, Donkey Kong, Mario Kart. I think Mario Kart is actually the only game that I have that's from my actual childhood that like I have when I like the actual physical game.
Okay.
The rest I don't know where they went. Or and Ocarina of Time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I started collecting all this stuff like middle of high school. So,
Yeah.
but I did have the only game that I originally have is Donkey Kong 64 because I believe. Sean, if you're watching this, I think that copy of Donkey Kong 64 that I have was your original copy when you were a kid. So I think that's the only one that I have that is from childhood.
Yeah.
Is Donkey Kong 64. But I collected all the rest. But we'll see that throughout the show.
Yeah, it's still just such an amazing. It's a great party console. Like you can get it,
4-player support.
Yeah, four player support. Most of the games on it are just so fun to play. Even like GoldenEye, like I hate playing that game, but it's such a blast. Like just like because you don't know what you're doing most of the time. Like you're just like you can't see anything. But it's just fun in that sense of like no one can see what they're doing most of the time because it's so you have your little quadrant of the screen. You know?
Yeah, the 4-player split screen.
Yeah.
Kids nowadays won't get that, man. They won't. They won't understand 4-player split screen and how you had to literally look at the screen like
Screen
that. Screen peeking was a big thing. Oh my god. So much stuff we can get into with such little time.
Don't screen peek.
Yeah. So, for the last question I would have to ask you is, are you still a fan of the N64?
Absolutely.
Agreed. That's all we can say.
Yeah, you know, like you kind of failed in a lot of aspects, but I think the games are what people remember from it. Like especially when it comes to like Mario 64. Like Mario 64 was the first 3D Mario game, and for the most part, they didn't make 2D Mario games until New Super Mario Bros. For Zelda, they didn't make 2D Zeldas until what, like Phantom Hourglass, Spirit Tracks, Lake Between Worlds, and now they've been starting to make more 2D isometric ones. But ever since Ocarina of Time, they've been steadily making more and more, just 3D ones. And a lot of the industry standards came from games that were on that system.
So big praise to the Nintendo 64. I love the system. Nick loves the system. I'll let you hold it for a little outro here. So, it's an incredible system. I mean, there's not much more to really say in this episode. I mean,
I think there is. I don't know if it's something that we actually forgot to mention, but some of you that have either owned the console or you just got one may have noticed there's a little port on the bottom of it. And that was for the Nintendo 64 DD, the disc drive.
Yep.
And that was a add-on that was primarily released only in Japan, and it was pretty much able to read discs, and it was primarily designed so that bigger games can be put on it, and that's actually part of how Majora's Mask was made, / Master Quest for Ocarina of Time, where it was designed to be on the Nintendo 64 disc drive, and I don't know, it ended up not falling through because
the sales were like plummeting.
Yeah.
So it just didn't fall through.
But I mean, it
was big in Japan though, right?
Not really. I mean, I don't know, but that because like the biggest problem, I think the biggest bottleneck of the system, besides the controller, just the system itself, was the fact that it used cartridges, because like PlayStation was already using CD-ROMs at the time, and like you could store way more data on that, and I believe it was harder to port for the N64. That's why there weren't as many. There were only like 300 something titles released on the N64 worldwide. So, you know, it was harder because they can only put so much into one cartridge. Thankfully, after that, the GameCube onward used like CDs and CD-ROMs, and I mean, now they're back to cartridges with the Switch, but the cartridges can hold more now. You know, it's not.
Yeah, it's not as limited.
But at that time, they could only hold like a certain amount. I'm not sure what the actual amount is.
Yeah, I'll put it under the screen right here.
But yeah, the Nintendo 64 disk drive was. Every system has this thing, and every system can, I believe, work with the disk drive.
Yep.
Correct me if I'm wrong, anyone that's watching this.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting add-on that never really took off, and a lot of games kind of originated from being designed from that, like Master Quest, Majora's Mask. They were all supposed to kind of be on that, but ended up not falling through, and they just put on a normal cartridge. So I think that covers everything.
No, that's. I almost how can I have forgotten about the disc drive?
Because it's on the bottom.
It's on the bottom. You don't even see it on the bottom of the disc.
Yeah, there's
such an infamous part of its history.
There are tons of videos about it as well. It's a very.
We're gonna need to make a disc drive. If I ever get a disc drive, or if a viewer wants to donate it, then we can discuss it.
Yeah, like that's what happened.
Yeah, but anyways, so yeah, that's actually gonna be the end of the episode. So to the viewer, thank you for watching. We hope that you learned a lot about the Nintendo 64, because we're going to be talking a lot more about it, along with plenty more games. And we'll see that in the next episode. But thank you for coming on, Nick.
Yeah,
I greatly appreciate it.
Having me. I mean, I'm happy to be here. I hope we can collaborate a little bit more in the future. And
Yeah.
Get some actual gameplay on here and show off some neat little tricks in some of the games that we know. I know you know a couple good tricks in Donkey Kong. I know some tricks in the Zelda games, so I feel like that can make a fun little episode.
That would be a ton of fun. So we'll see that down the line. But for now, that's going to do it for our very first episode.
Yeah.
So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope to see you in the next episode, where we're going to be discussing a major game of the Nintendo 64 that we did say today, but I'm not going to say what exactly it was. So I look forward to seeing you next time, and until then, see you later. Take care.